Cam, good morning. I know the draft is still 2 months away and you don't even know where you're picking, but what is going on within the organization, to prepare for the draft in terms of needs and evaluating players?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I know the amateur staff is in constant contact, all kinds of Zoom meetings on a regular basis, going through the available players up to be drafted this year. Putting lists together. That's been going on for quite some time now. So I think the group is fairly well prepared. To your point, we don't know where we're drafting, but a little bit of a challenging year. Not many players played too much hockey. So, to get a real good sense of what type of development some of these players will have will be a challenge. But I think the group has done a really good job trying to dig in as much as possible with these players, both on and off the ice.
Thanks, Rich. We'll go next to Emily Benjamin.
Hey, Cam. First, I just sort of a two-part question. I just wanted to get your thoughts on what you've seen from Tuukka so far, the first 5 games. And also, do you guys have any sort of clarity or thoughts on what could be in his future, what his plans are, what your thoughts are going forward with him?
Well, first of all, I think he's been extremely dialed in this past series. I thought he he played really well. He was very poised. He was very square to the puck, in my opinion. I thought he handled rebounds really well, and he got out and played some pucks, which certainly helps the defenseman. Both Tuukka and our camp, we said we'd table everything till after the season to see how things go and get a better sense after the season's over for how Tuukka's feeling, both mentally and physically, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. We'll go next to Matt Porter.
Morning, Cam.
Morning.
Bruce has commented, and obviously you can see this, that the team is very well conditioned. That never seems to be too much of an issue, losing steam in, overtime games, whatever the case might be. I'm curious, from an organizational standpoint, were there any inefficiencies in the way that the team trains that you saw either when you took over or maybe since Don has been the GM, kind of over the last X number of years? Where are the largest improvements that you've seen with training and conditioning within the club?
Well, I think it's really started with how we were practicing. We were practicing with a lot of pace. Wasn't a lot of standing around listening to what the drills were going to be. Bruce really, as I'm sure you saw and noticed, the way that he has the players, preparing for practice, and the pace is extremely high. So, that transitions and carries over into how we play the game. So I think really it started with practicing and having a high pace of practice, and the players have to, also buy into getting themselves in shape and the best shape possible to be able to handle those practices, then ultimately handle the games.
Was that something that came from Bruce or elsewhere?
Well, we talked, Don and I talked about, our pace, especially in practice. We felt like we could pick up the pace a little bit. And Bruce wanted to play fast. So it really was a combination of those things where we felt we needed more pace in practice, which would carry over into games. And that's how Bruce wanted to coach.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fudo Shinzawa.
Cam, you saw Charlie in the first round and pretty much total control of his game. So from looking back, when you guys were talking about him going into the draft, does that align the way his game has progressed now into what you saw from him, maybe some of the conversation about what he could become when he was draft eligible?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not quite to where he's at now, but there's certainly a lot of conversations about him being able to be a number one defenseman in the National Hockey League. And, it's up to him to put the work in, which he's done. But, you can see the skill set, the skating, the fact that he could play a lot of minutes. We saw that in him. But he's really taken it to another level this year, and good on him.
We'll go next to Kevin Dupont.
Cam, in all these years, I can't remember this number of high-profile UFA guys at this point in at this juncture of the season. Is it your impression? We know Hall wants to come back. Is it your impression that Rask and Krejci also want to come back?
I haven't talked to him myself personally about that. I kind of let the season go along and just let them focus on playing this year. And my guess is that they would. I think they both would probably like to finish their careers as the Boston Bruins. So let's see what happens this offseason. But there's something to be said for playing for one organization. And that's right now. That's what it's looking like for both Tuukka and David.
And do you want them all back? Do you have that? Do you have that in the budget?
Well, we'll have to see how we can make things work. Plus, we want to get through this season and see how things play out, and we'll go from there, Kevin. I mean, it's the way that Tuukka has played throughout his career here has been pretty impressive. I mean, now he's the leader in not only regular season wins but playoff wins, and David Krejci, he always seems to elevate his game in the playoffs. He's done it before, and he's doing it again now. And so we'll go from there once the season's over.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. We'll go next to Joe Haggerty.
Hey, Cam. No playoff beard for you?
It's there. I just trimmed it this morning, actually.
There you go. Working on the next round.
Yeah.
I got a few here for you, if you wouldn't mind indulging me. First of all, just how excited is the Bruins organization to be, growing the crowd at the Garden, and how close do you have specifics on how close to full capacity you guys can be for the next round?
Yeah, we're working on the manifest now. It's going to be extremely exciting. Obviously, going from no fans to, what was it, 12%? I think was a big difference for the players. And then going to 25% was a really big difference, especially in playoff hockey. And then, to get to, near capacity, I think is going to be amazing for not only the fans that are dying to come and watch some live hockey, but also the players. Just that energy in the building makes a huge difference. I can't even imagine what it's been like to play without fans. It certainly, when you're in the building yourself watching, it's a dramatic difference. So, very excited about this next round for sure with fans in the building.
And Donnie mentioned this a little bit yesterday about the power plays that Washington had in that last series. I think it was 21. And you guys did lead the NHL in minor penalties during the regular season, and minor penalties that you took. My question is, how do you walk that balance between taking penalties at times, standing up for yourself, playing a hard physical game, but not wanting to hand opportunities to the other team? It seems like it's a very fine line to walk.
Well, it is. I mean, you try to be as disciplined as possible. We talked a lot about Washington's power play and not giving them too many opportunities, which, we didn't really follow the game plan with that. But, I got to give our penalty killers a ton of credit and the coaching staff to get the guys prepared for that power play. Thought we did a really good job, but the best thing for us to do is try to be as disciplined as possible and not take the bad penalties, meaning, maybe in the offensive zone or in the neutral zone. There's times when you have to take a penalty and maybe trying to avoid a great scoring chance, but it's the lazy penalties you got to stay away from.
And just overall, having watched this team really gel since the trade deadline, play really good hockey, now watching what you saw in the first round, just how optimistic are you big picture about these playoffs for this Bruins team?
Well, right now I'm just thinking about the next game. And I think that's the mindset of our players. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Still a lot of really good hockey teams playing in the playoffs right now. And for us, it's really just about worrying about how we need to play and how we need to prepare, which I think we're going to be very well prepared. The coaching staff did an amazing job preparing the players for the Washington series. So I anticipate we'll be just as prepared. But it's really about the next game. I can't think too far ahead of that.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Just a reminder to media, if you no longer have a question, go ahead and put your hand down. We'll go next to Chris Ryan.
Hey, Cam, how are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Great. Want to ask you about, this last decade, as obviously everybody's been celebrating the 2011 championship, but really, it's been a decade of sustained competitiveness, and a lot of sports franchises want to try to find that. In your view, what have been the keys for establishing that sustained competitiveness where this group has been in it pretty much each year?
Well, it's really, we're blessed to have the leadership group that we've had for, this past decade. I think it starts there. And then, when he introduced new players to the organization, they either have to buy in or we'll find others that will. I think that our locker room was probably one of the best in the league as far as, how the players really play for each other and they really enjoy each other's company. I mean, it's a really tight group. And that starts with the leadership, and it's also character. You got to have the right players with the right character that know what it means to play here and understand what this market is as far as being a hockey player in Boston. All those things combined, you certainly hope that you can get all those ingredients and mix them together properly. And that's, fortunately, we're a little bit blessed that we've had that in the past 10 years.
Is it rare to have an individual that is as universally respected across the board as Bergie, where, Bruce was talking about the fact that he got a little heated and Bergie calmed him down. Bergie provides that influence, obviously, on Brad as well at times. Is that rare to have a player, to be able to get a coach to calm down a little bit and also have that influence? And what do you think has been his impact, and can it be overstated over the last 10 years?
Well, he's, there's been so much already said about Patrice and his character and his leadership abilities, and he pulls people in as opposed to, pushing them away. He really wants to get to know everybody, not just as teammates, but also personally and their families. And I give him a ton of credit for how he does lead. And it's I don't know if there's many guys like him, not just in hockey, but maybe in sport, really, especially a team sport like we're playing in. He just because of his nature and how he is and how he works and the work ethic that he has, it's hard for others not to follow that. It really is.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah.
Good time for a few more. We'll go next to Butch Stearns.
Hey, Cam, how are you?
Good. How about yourself?
Good. Have you been given, you don't have to tell us, but have you been given any indication if the series wraps up between the Penguins and the Islanders, when you guys might start? And then can you also just talk about, in general, the time off for this team being a good thing or a bad thing?
No indication yet. I assume I'll hear something from the league the next day or so. I'd like to have an idea just so we can plan and prep properly, but it's still a little early to maybe get that information. I think our group is has enough experience to understand like the time off, how to use it to the best of their ability as far as getting rest and recovery. I think it's very important, especially if you hope to go on a long run. I think these days off are going to be very beneficial moving forward. But but having said that, I know our guys are, when they do get back on the ice, they're going to be ready to work, and that's what has to happen. They'll be, the coaching staff will be ready to get these guys ramped up as the days progress and as we get into the first game of the second round.
And one other quick thing. You talked about what it means if you have full capacity for the players and for the fans. How about for you and all the conversations you and your staff have gone through with the state and everything they show? What's it going to mean to you to look around that building and see it full again?
Well, it's, maybe show everybody that life's returning to somewhat normal. It's been, as we all have experienced, it's been a very strange 14 or 15 months here. And as you mentioned, all kinds of conversations that we probably never even couldn't imagine having about, fans and protocols and masks and, social distancing, all those things. I give Amy Latimer and the TD Garden staff credit for, pulling all this together and working well with the state and the city. I think they did a really good job, and I know the players are excited about more fans in the building, and I'm certainly am. It does bring so much more energy and excitement when there is fans in the building, especially at playoff time.
Thanks, Cam.
Matt Porter.
Yeah, Cam, just a quick one. Your thoughts on the Pittsburgh Islanders series and what you've seen so far?
Kind of what we, as advertised, I guess. They both have their own style of play, and we knew whatever four teams were going to get in the playoffs in our division, it was going to be tight hockey and close games for the most part. That's just the way these teams are now. There's so much. There's teams are really, they're not as separated as it used to be. I think what we're seeing is what we expected, not just in that series, but across the league.
We'll take two more. We'll go to Bob Halloran and then Kevin Dupont. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you. Cam, the Bruins lost the first 5 games against the Islanders this year and then won the last 3, all coming after the trade deadline. And Taylor Hall scored 4 times in those 3 games. Could he be the secret weapon you need against the Islanders?
Well, don't know who we're playing yet. So,
right.
I guess when we find out who we're playing, I can answer that question.
Kevin Dupont, wrap us up.
Cam, this goes back to the Butch question about scheduling. I did a cursory look on the Garden site. It looks like a couple of days you would be essentially you couldn't get it. You couldn't get the ice. Is what's your understanding there in terms of what's available now? That's the first part of the question.
What's available for?
Are you frozen out on any dates here over the weekend because of other events coming into the building?
I don't believe so. I think we should be good, depending on when the league. I mean, all these dates have been submitted, Kevin, a long time ago. So as far as playoff availability, the Garden isn't quite as busy as it normally is. When things are normal. So I think it's a little bit more available than what we've seen in the past.
And hand in hand with that, I don't know if you might have gotten a read from this from Amy or not, or just in the building, 15 months of people not working, people go on to other jobs. So I'm wondering, are there enough bull gang guys, enough ushers, enough, concession people? You get any feedback there on employment levels?
That's a really good question. I have not heard that we're going to have issues in that regard, which is fortunate. That may change, but I haven't heard that there's going to be any concerns about the proper associates in the building to handle what we normally need them to handle.